Paldea Evolved has taught us something, and we should take note of this before it's too late. So Paldea Evolved has taught us that Pokemon is changing, sets are changing, how people view sets are changing. Can we all agree that Pokemon sets, usually before we buy them, we look at the price of the top couple chases, and we make a decision if we ever want to buy it, right? So if there's an expensive chase inside, people will go, alright, yeah, alright, Prismatic, very expensive chase inside, alright, let's buy it. You know, that's usually people's go-to, okay? So Paldea Evolved has completely just shifted the tide completely. So there was a lot of uncertainty to Paldea Evolved because the top chase inside was about $250-ish, but as a 10, it was like 10x that price. However, there's a lot of uncertainty because if you look at Fusion Strike, it's so stupid, but the Magikarp is actually pretty much the same price as the Gengar. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's actually more as a PSA 10. So then the question is, does that mean Paldea Evolved is going to overtake Fusion Strike, and do you think it's going to do really well because the Magikarp as a 10 is really expensive, but then as raw, it's not that expensive. So there's a lot of uncertainty, especially with the Raichu. Like, okay, if you look at Paldea Evolved, you look at it and you think, it's an okay set, big deal, whatever. Now, if you look at that, and let's just quickly change it, let's just quickly adjust everything as PSA 10s, top chase, like 2.5k PSA 10, then the second top chase, like $500 as a PSA 10, then like $400 as a PSA 10, and it's like, holy shit, these are expensive cards. And then you look at it, and it's like, oh no, it's actually a $50 card, it's just worth 10 times the price PSA 10. So the question was, will this affect the market? Will it do so well because it's so hard to grade and it'll do really well as a PSA 10? Or will people be put off it because they don't really have high of a chance of getting a PSA 10? Well, there was a lot of data to back up both arguments. First of all, a lot of people don't actually care about it being a PSA 10. A lot of people are fine if it's a PSA 9. A lot of people are fine if it's a binder card. A lot of people are fine just displaying the card as is, okay? A lot of people don't care at PSA 10s. Now, we can't really measure how many people care about it versus don't, but there are people to both sides of the equation, right? Now, the argument on the other side is, hey, let's look at Evolving Skies. Yes, the chances of pulling the Mimbrion isn't high, but it doesn't matter because people don't care, okay? They just naturally think the world revolves around them. And I've kind of been leaning towards that point. I've made videos about Paldea Evolved for a very long time now, and I've said, hey, I don't think it's a good set, but let's actually, like, okay, it's a good set, but it's not amazing. I don't think it's an amazing set, but let's just quickly look at the fact that it's really, really hard to grade the cards. Like, can that do well long term? Now, let's look at Evolving Skies once again. Okay, so people, if you ever go to card shows or any convention where you see other collectors out in the wild, they always act like their box has the chase. Everybody says, oh, that tin, I know that has the Umbreon. That box, I know it has a God Pack. Like, they always act like that 1 in 1,000, they're going to be that 1 in 1,000 chance, right? So what this tells us is there could literally be one Magikarp PSA 10 because it's so hard to grade. It could be $20,000 and Paldea Evolved would absolutely send it. Because people don't care about the chance. People don't care about the probability. They just see big number and they open up packs. It's a very brain dead like way of thinking. There's no calculation behind it. It's just like, oh, Paldea Evolved booster pack is, I don't know, what, $8? Oh, well, hang on, the top chase inside is like $2,500 as a PSA 10. Oh, okay, I'm gonna buy it. Like, that's what people do. Now, this was pure speculation if this would actually pan out, but we can see it is. Look, we can see Paldea Evolved is actually doing really, really well. Now, what does this tell us? First of all, let's just quickly look at this. I just want to quickly say this, guys, okay? I don't know when I'm uploading the videos. I upload these, I usually record like 4 at a time, and then I edit and upload them all at different times. I don't know when this video is coming out or if it already has, but in a video recently, I talked about how you need to adapt in the market, and it's very important. What worked in Sun and Moon may not work in Sword and Shield. What worked in Sword and Shield may not work in Scarlet Violet. Example, Sword and Shield ETBs didn't go up a whole ton. Okay, well now in Scarlet Violet they go up a whole ton. They go up a shit ton. So you need to adjust your investing strategy, okay? Alright, so now we've all agreed on that. Let's quickly adapt our investing strategy. Okay, well, Temporal Forces, not the best set out there. In my opinion, not the best. But let's look at the top chase. The Ghastly as a PSA 10 is like $400-$500. It is ridiculously expensive. a lot of top chases in there. They're not that much, but as a PSA 10, they're ridiculous. So does that mean that the PSA 10 is going to carry it up? Because like the Gengar VMAX is like $600, but then as a PSA 10, it's not as much as the Magikarp, which is like $250. So PSA 10s matter a lot more than we think, okay? And I think this is going to change Scarlet and Violet for the long term very interestingly. Now, what is my point in this? My point is, let's look at good old 151. Have you noticed that there's a lot of illustration rares that are very popular? Charmander, Charmeleon, Squirtle, Wartortle, Pikachu. You've got so many popular illustration rares. It's the same damn thing as Paldea Evolved. Hard as hell to grade. And the prices is showing it. The Squirtle is, while not as hard as Paldea Evolved, it is not 10x the raw price, but it's sure as hell not 2x, like a lot of Sword and Shield singles are. What the Squirtle as a 10 is, it's about 7x. And I've noticed that the Ghastly is actually pretty much on par. The Ghastly is about 7.5 to 8.5x the raw price. What this goes to tell us is that the first half of Scar and Violet, a lot of the printing was really bad. Like Journey Together, for example, printing is pretty solid. Very easy to get PSA 10s. And you look at Prismatic Evolutions, printing is pretty solid. Not that difficult to get PSA 10s. Now, it is pretty early, so you can't just make a decision on that. Like, you kind of have to look at it with a lens. But then you look at Surging Sparks, yeah, it's pretty good. But then you look at the Eevee from Twilight Masquerade, it's not that good. It's actually pretty difficult to grade. And then you look at the Ghastly from Tower of Forces. Now, I mentioned this Ghastly a couple months ago. Oh, well, it was actually last month. I said, hey, this card seems to be pretty underrated. And quite frankly, it's just been doing absolute numbers after that. You look at a bunch of other Scar and Violet cards. Now, I think this is going to make the prices do really, really well. Now, here's the thing. Paldean Fate's not affected by us. Prismatic Evolution's not affected by us. And it seems like they got their shit together when it came to Destined Rivals and Journey Together. So let's just take those quickly out of the equation. So you've basically got, in my opinion, 3 main sets, okay? Because I just want to be clear, this does not apply for SIRs. SIRs, the quality is quite good. It's actually illustration rares specifically. So I'm going to quickly pick 3 sets. Paldea Evolved, 151, and Temporal Forces. These are the 3 main sets with the highest potential if this does continue. If Paldea Evolved does continue to absolutely send it. Paldea Evolved is just going on a complete home run. It's just doing insane, man. Paldea Evolved is taking off. Holy moly. I'm so glad I bought 10 boxes. And once again, this goes back to adapting with the market. Fellas, I bought Paldea Evolved when it was $80 a booster box. And I hated the set. I was like, man, this set is shit. But it was so cheap, so I bought it, okay? I bought 4 cases, okay? So however much 4 cases is, it's like, what, 24, okay? Quick math. So, okay, so what I did was I ended up selling those because I was an idiot. And then about a half a year ago, oh, probably more, maybe 8 months ago, I looked at Paldea Evolved and I was like, oh, maybe I should buy it back. Because I looked at it and I was like, it's not that good, but at the same time, like, I had to adapt with the market, right? Like, I had to look at it, I was like, oh, I really don't like Paldea Evolved. Like, if you know me, you know I don't like Paldea Evolved. And I'm like, oh, I really don't like it, but at the same time, them as a PSA 10 is really, really expensive. Like, if you want a master set of Paldea Evolved in PSA 10s, it's literally going to cost you an arm and a leg. Literally. It's so bad. So I looked at that and I was like, man, I really don't like Paldea Evolved, but I've really got to get a position in this because this set is just so expensive. The top chases are so expensive in PSA 10s. Now it's working out. So now let's look at that and go, all right, well, Temporal Forces, you got the Ghastly. Pop is microscopic for the Ghastly. Absolutely microscopic. But not only that, Temporal Forces got way less print waves than Paldea Evolved. It got way less attention, way less ETBs, way less booster boxes, way less everything. Temporal Forces actually got a lot less love. Now, you look at that and you go, oh, okay. And then you look at Obsidian Flames. Now, I will just say I am a professional hater of Obsidian Flames, so I do have to continue my legacy of hating on Obsidian Flames. Now, I will say the Ninetales is a beautiful card, but one illustration rare carrying the set, I don't really think that's going to happen. And Obsidian Flames kind of just is doing its own thing anyway, so it's kind of fine. Temporal Forces, 151, and Paldea Evolved seem to be the 3 main ones that's going to be affected by this. Because Temporal Forces has a few decent illustration rares, but the main one is the Ghastly, to be honest. The Ghastly is going to do really, really well. I could see the Ghastly being like a $1,000 PSA 10, to be honest, and that's USD, so $1,500 AUD for anyone who's watching in Australia. So going back to the Ghastly is, there's only 4,000 PSA 10s. That is nothing. That is virtually nothing. That Ghastly is underrated, man. I literally said a month ago, and like when I say this, I'm not saying like in a cocky way. I just want to be clear. I said it when it was like, I think what through 250 ish is when I said like, dude, this card is underrated. This thing needs to go up, and it did. It's gone up from then, but I still think it's underrated. It's a really really good card, but more importantly, the sealed product. The reason why is because people look at these cards as PSA 10s. Like, do you notice how on streams people just can't show the card of the normal price? Like, people are so depraved and desensitized to Pokemon cards. If it doesn't show the PSA 10 price, it's not entertaining enough. Like, someone will pull a V that's worth $3, and then the person will say V $3, PSA 10 $20. Like, dude, shut up, man. You don't need to show the PSA 10 price of a freaking V card, yeah? And then someone will pull a vintage card, say a $30 holo, but it's like $1,000 as a PSA 10, and the streamer will go, oh my goodness, from a $300 pack you pulled a $30 holo. It's a $1,000 card as a PSA 10. Bro, you made $700. Like, these videos, they always have to include the PSA 10 price. It's because it's just, we're so depraved of high value. Like, even this, right? If you pull this card, people don't say, oh my goodness, that's a $300 card. Nice job, dude. No, people go, oh my goodness, that's an $1,100 card as a PSA 10. Nice, dude. Like, people always have to mention the PSA 10. So PSA has a very large significance. And I feel like these few sets, Temporal Forces 151 and Paldea Evolved, I feel like these sets are just going to do absolutely phenomenal. And it's a very weird situation to be in, right? Because we don't see this often. Like, the only thing I can really compare it to is like X and Y. We've got like really weird cards, like the Silver Diagla, where there's like only 20 of them as a PSA 10, because it's just so. I actually don't know if it's hard to grade. I don't know what it is, but you got ones from like Lugia from Neo Genesis, right? Where it's like weirdly hard to grade. I believe it is the single hardest card to grade in all of Pokemon. Dude, that box price would not be the box price it is at if that was easy to grade. Like, if that was like a 1 in 2 or 1 in 3 chance to get a PSA 10, it would not be the box price it is. But it's the box price that it is because it's so hard to grade. So we look at the past, we can look at the present, and we can predict the future. And I think this is going to be very interesting to take note of. So in the future, when there's an item where the pop is extremely low and it's extremely hard to get us a PSA 10, I think we should all adjust our investing strategy to also take note of these items, because I think they do just really, really well. They will do absolutely phenomenal. I feel like the Charizard UPC, let's give a lot of its credit of growth to the fact that the singles are so hard to grade, and these Japanese boxes. Okay, word on the street is that they're hard as hell to grade. There is word on the street that those cards, how they're stored inside the box, is really crap, so they get damaged very easily. If that is the case, as a PSA 10, it will be extremely expensive, which will just pump the living shit out of this box. Like, this box will just do absolute numbers. So yeah, very, very interesting times to be in Pokemon. But that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Thanks for watching.